I wanted to just thank you for coming on. This is the fifth episode of the Trophy Room. I have pro skill trainer, coach, mentor Chris Hyppa with me.
You got to pronounce it right, man. It's Hyppa.
Hyppa, sorry.
I knew that was coming, man. You know what, though? It's been mispronounced, though, since I was a kid, man. It's all good. I'm used to it. I'm like waiting. I'm like, okay, let's see what he got here.
Yeah, my bad. Well, you know what? You don't have any biography where when it spells your name out, the pronunciation. You know how the coaches in the bios
easy,
have
man.
until you start trying to pronounce the whole thing.
No, true. You're right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how's everything going, man?
It's good. I mean, obviously, we're in a different time, as far as just like the stuff that we've been used to being able to do for, our whole life. And the last 7-8 months, man, has been different as far as like the access that we've had. But I've kind of adopted like a slogan to just kind of adapt and adjust. And I think that's with basketball, that's with life. I mean, you can't control the things, around you at all times, but you've got to be able to just kind of adapt and adjust to the things that happen.
What are some of those adaptations that you speak about? Because obviously we had and still have, but in most cases in these last 7 months, we just had time to sit down and think. Personally, for me, I was the ops at Yale for the past 2 seasons, and my goals for my career were to coach basketball at the highest level, college basketball at the highest level. And then I had some downtime to just really think about my goals and my aspirations and how I could continue to utilize my characteristics to be fruitful and help the youth, which I thought that they needed more help than ever. So I jumped out.
Right.
And now I'm in the middle of starting my own business and building a brand and really just trying to be on the front lines. So that was me kind of in a come to Jesus or just a realignment. So what are some things that you've done with your career to realign in these times?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that have happened in the last 8 months that have always been like thoughts in the back of my head that I wanted to do. And I didn't really put like a pinpoint on it, whether it be a year or like 5-year or 10-year plan that have come to fruition and have kind of sped things up a little faster. The last 10 years that I've been doing skill development, I've been doing it for 18, but the last 10 years full time. I've always wanted my own gym, but it's never been something that I put to the forefront to really make it a priority to do. In the last 8 months, though, with high schools being closed, recreational centers being closed, your access being kind of taken away from you, it's kind of been something now in the forefront of like my next kind of thing that I'd like to do is have my own gym. So I'm actively seeking. I've got some stuff kind of in the works right now of being able to put together like either some sort of complex if I do it bigger with like more partners, or something smaller where I have my own gym to where I can run workouts and certain events that I love to coordinate. So when I say adapting and adjusting, is just more or less almost kind of fast forwarding and putting dreams more into the reality, as opposed to just keeping them out there to where they can't be touched.
What's the most ideal gym situation for you between those two?
Well, I think that they're both kind of different. If I want to be involved with more people and I want to kind of partner, I think that we can do something bigger for our area. And we could have a complex that has, your strength training, your basketball stuff. It's more or less a one-stop shop. And, there's, pros in our area right now that, that are trying to back it, that want their own place. And that would be a bigger thing where I wouldn't always have the say. I would have my feedback and I would have my niche and I would have my space. But that would be kind of bigger. Ideally for me, I would love to be able to operate my own gym that has a full court strength and conditioning stuff, but then I have the keys, I unlock it, I open it, I control it. And so just trying to get that balance, and it might be something where I do both. But right now, though, that's kind of what I'm trying to weigh, is trying to find out exactly which way that I want to go.
Yeah. I guess you just got to continue to have those conversations with the people that can help you continue to move forward. But the best part about it is one way or another, that's on the horizon.
Absolutely. And it just more or less proves that, like, when you I just had to talk about this last week, is that these were always dreams that I had more or less talked about with my close friends and family, but I never put it out there. And once you put it out there and people can feel it, you start to attract it. You know what I mean? So it's just like I started to talk about this verbally, and next thing you know, people are contacting me all over the place about either one, partnering, or two, hey, I'm going to start to look for space. So it's just like all of a sudden now, as far as, not doing it by myself, but just putting it out there, the help comes.
And also it's a situation that even if you wanted to do it years ago, you wouldn't have been able to do it the same way, for lack of better terms, as big, and have that backing and network and supporters, because one thing that a lot of people don't understand, a lot of people do, is that things just take time. And you got to try our best to remain patient and just continue to work through it and let our experience lead to more opportunity. And obviously this is that more opportunity that you've been working towards for so long.
Right. And I had a chance, so when I first started doing this full time 10 years ago, I was in a gym that was ideal. We had 4 full courts. They more or less gave me freedom to do whatever I would like to do. But I didn't have the business mindset or, like you said, experience at that time to really capitalize and take advantage of what I had. And so now you fast forward at 10 years now, the timing is right as far as with everything that's happened. The timing that was right, the business stuff that I've learned, the experience that I have now to be able to jump into it, whether it be my own gym or, like I said, a huge complex, I'm now mentally there to be able to handle it.
And that's what it takes. Let's go in a different direction. I just wanted to see, or gauge your thoughts on your personal approach to player development and player growth. And a lot of times when people speak about that, it's specifically on court. But what are some of the things that are your approach on the court, but also off the court, to try to maximize for the players and student athletes that you work with?
Right. And I think this is one thing that kind of lacks with like kids, or not even kids now, but guys that train and also guys that coach. When I was younger, I had to run camps when I was 18. It's more or less like you run a team camp though at your school, and your coach puts you in charge of a basket and says, okay, you got ball handling, 6 stations, 20 minutes in a row. And you have no idea what you're going to do, but for that 20 minutes, like your first one is sloppy. You're not quite clear with what you're trying to do. Your second one is okay. By the time you get to that 6th one, man, your instruction is crisp. You're dialed in. You're locked in. And you learn how to coach. And you also learn how to assess. And you learn how to evaluate. And I think that by me working camps at like a young age, by all of a sudden now for a week, I had to run a team. And I had maybe 20 minutes of practice time. But through that week, you have to learn how to coach. No one is giving you a guide or like a book to tell you what to do. You're by yourself with 10 kids. It's on you. And now that I look back on it, though, these coaches were giving us a chance to learn how to coach as opposed to being in our hip pocket trying to tell us what to do. And so I think that that's one thing that trainers and coaches sometimes lack, is they lack being able to evaluate and then being able to teach, because they never had to do it on the spot. And so when I run camps right now, I love doing it, putting my college kids in a basket and telling them the same exact thing. All right, man, you got to teach blocking out 6 in a row for 15 minutes. Well, what should I do? Figure it out. You've done drills before. And all of a sudden now they come back and they have a better understanding of maybe how to block out because they had to teach it. And so kind of going back to that, my philosophy on skill training is, I have 4 stages that I try to teach. First one, skill building. So every workout we do some sort of skill building that has nothing to do with offense that you might plan with your team. We're building skill, left hand, right hand, ball handling, scoring, just building skill. Okay, then the next one would come down to like situational IQ shots that you might get. It might be off of handoffs, it might be off of pin downs, it might be off of driving kicks, whatever the situation that we choose to do that day. The third one is that we're going to get a ton of reps in. And I always talk about reps. Repetition elevates personal skill. And then the fourth one is you got to get your strength and conditioning. You got to get some sort of strength. But those are the 4 stages that I kind of go off, and I from those 4 things, you're going to more or less be able to help the kid with skill building, be able to help them with their IQ, get a ton of reps, and also be able to get them stronger.
What what are the qualities, characteristics of the players that you work with that you're able to help maximize their ceilings and their potential, opposed to the players who you've worked with that you almost have to pry their development out of them in comparison?
I mean, I think it just comes down to one, that when the player comes to you, are they there for themselves though to improve? And if they're there, they're already there because they want to be there and they want to improve.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think it's easier because they're already willing to give everything that they got for you because they want to grow.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a kid that's there because maybe their mom or dad wants to get them involved in basketball, and maybe they don't have that background or they're not in love with the game,
Mm-hmm.
then I think that's probably the most important thing before you can do anything as far as growth-wise, that they have to enjoy what they're doing. And so I have people that talk to me and reach out as far as, I have a kid that's 8 years old. I need to get him in the gym with you. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, like, we can get in the gym. Does your kid love the game? There's so many things you can do at home right now to increase their love of the game and to give them good experiences so they continue to want to play this game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's kind of a different, when the kid comes to you and they are ready to go and they are ready to learn and they're engaged, I think it's easy because they want to be there and they have some sort of interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have that interest in it, I mean, it's hard to improve in anything.
What about the kids who you know that want to be good, or that they want to improve, but from a mental aspect, they just don't understand what their approach needs to be, whether it be aggression, tempo, focus, body language, or all the things that it comes with? What are some things that maybe some approaches that you've used to try to help those kids continue to grow and get out of those ways?
Well, and it's not even like they're trying to get out of ways, but they're trying to learn their ways. You know what I mean? Like there's non-negotiables in this game before you can even learn like skill set, before you can even learn, like there are certain ways, like mindset wise, as far as you can teach kids that, as far as how to respond to a missed shot, what to do on a make or a miss, sprinting back on defense, like the right and wrong way to play the game, the right way to play. There's a right way to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that if kids can like learn how to play the right way, so you talk about like mindset and attitude and like tempo, all those things can be taught, but they have to be ingrained in their kid from not necessarily like a young age, but coaches just have to be able to teach that. There are going to be some kids though that you talk about, that kid has feel. Well, that kid's been around the game for a long time. You know, his mom and dad have taken him to the gym. They've taken him to games. And kids can pick up on feel because they're there and they can just kind of adapt to it. But kids that aren't around the game all the time, it's going to be a little bit tougher to teach feel because feel comes from being around it. And so every skill that you just talked about can be taught, but it's easier when it comes from feel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just think that sometimes we deal with kids who we know that they want to be good, or from a maturity or just the understanding of what it's really going to take for them to get to whatever their goals are, they're so far from it. And sometimes even when you coach them and you've worked with them for a number of sessions, and obviously you're going to stick with them and try to help them understand and hold them accountable to understand. But some guys just, from a maturation, from a social media telling them certain things, how to respond, they just don't get it. And it's unfortunate. And I think that we can get, for a lot of kids, you can get it out of them, but there's some that just, they end up in their own way. And it's unfortunate.
And I think that just comes down to just like their interest. I mean, if you're not interested in it and you're going to fight it, it's never going to work. You know what I mean? Like there's kids, though, I mean, if they're not enthused or to be at the gym and their body language is bad and their attitude's always bad, I mean, you can preach to them all you want as far as here's the right way to act. But if they don't want to be there and there's no interest, that's why I always tell, I've had kids quit training and go find something that they love to do, because I always, talk to kids about, find something you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you're going to have the most fun. That's where you're going to invest your most time. So if basketball is not your thing, go find something else. I've had kids reach out to me and say, hey, coach, that was probably the most important thing that you taught me during all the time that we trained, because now I'm doing this and I'm enjoying it and I love to do it. And like, that's what I want. I want to be able to inspire kids to like be able to follow their passion and do what they love. This is what I love to do. This doesn't mean that you got to love to do it. You have to love it because you love it and nobody else does, you know? So I think that if we're fighting those kids, we can still give them lessons if they come and train, but we may never be able to see them get to the peak of what they can do basketball-wise because they just don't have that love and the interest and the passion for the game.
Talk to me about Nate Robinson. Talk to me about your guys' first workout, and then talk to me about the relationship that you guys have been able to form moving forward after those things.
Well, you know, Nate and I are from the same area. So Nate's in Seattle, which is about a half hour north of where I grew up. Okay, so and I'm older than him by about 6 years. So when I was going through college and just kind of getting done, Nate was just kind of like taking shape at, you know, Beach and playing in the Dome, and they were playing with a really, really good team. I mean, obviously Beach, you know, the team that he's from nationally, they're good every single year. They've had Jamal Crawford, DeJounte Murray, Terrence Williams, Doug Christie. I mean, a lot of pros don't go through that spot. So I have grown up, you know, always knowing that Nate could like play and seeing though what Nate did. There used to be a tournament in Seattle called Rip the Cut. There was a barber that was shot and killed like in the early 2000s, and they ran this thing for him every May. And so every May, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I think it was Memorial Day weekend, every single pro would come. I mean, Nate Robinson had a team. Jamal Crawford had a team. Will Conroy had it was stacked, man. It was more or less like your barbershop deal where there was probably 24 teams coming from all over the place. There was music banging in the background, barbecued food. I mean, man, it was an event. It was live.
Those are the best environment.
Man, I got goosebumps right now. You know what I mean? Like probably some of my best basketball I ever played was in that gym. This is like right when I got done with college, like around 2001, 2002. And I'm about 24 years old, man. I'm strong. I'm quick. I'm at the peak of my game. You know, this is like when Nate and all them guys, Brandon, Roy, they're like 18, 19. And so I got a lot of respect from these guys during that time, though, going up there and playing, especially being a white dude, man, walking into a gym like that and being able to hold my own and have some great games. And I'm wanted to like never reach out to kids about like, and never, people know what I do. Hey, it's all good, man. We're in the Zoom days, man. You got kids in the background. It happens, man. So, but just I gained a lot of respect at that time. We didn't have a big relationship, though, but we were built off of respect. Like, he would see me, we would say, what's up, and it was all good. So I can't remember what year it was. It might have been 2014. He had just been released by New Orleans. He started on opening night. On night 2, he didn't play a lot. Then they released him. And I can only imagine like what happened and what their thought process was to release him. But he hit me up like that following week. It was like, man, I want to get in the gym.
How long had you been training? How long had you been training in the meantime?
I have been training full time. That was 4 years. My pros at that time were WNBA players. I had like Courtney Vandersloot, who's one of the best point guards in the world right now. She played for the Sky. She led the WNBA in assists. Plays right now in Russia. She's a stud. That was my first pro. But people around the area knew what I did. And so he reached out to me. We worked out at this place called The Whack, which is in downtown Seattle. It's like a private club. And our workout was at 8 a.m. I walked in at about 7:50. Nate was already there. And right away, like we knew each other. We just never got to the point though where we had talked in depth though. So we gave love to each other and then we talked. And I remember we had a talk at half court and we're just like, man, I just want you to know that I'm here though. Like whenever you need me, I'm here. You know, so if you need me at 6 in the morning, if you need me at midnight, like I'll do anything that I can do to help you stay in shape and help you get back. And at that time, I was just starting to work out Kelsey Plum. And so I remember at that time, man, like going up to Seattle 5 in the morning to work out Plum, then working out late at 9 in the morning, driving back to Tacoma a half hour, then going back in the evening, just making trips to Seattle multiple times a day to work with these two.
Grinding,
you know what I mean? Just grinding, but just like knew that it felt right. There was good energy. We were improving. They appreciated my time. And from there, man, our relationship grew. And it's just like we have become you know, great friends through the game of basketball.
What are some things that I'm just trying to type something here in the chat for
Yeah, it's
Anybody's
all
got any
good, man. We
questions
got
for
some
us?
love in there, man. I see some folks will stop by. Appreciate you guys. Cy, what's up, man? We got to get back in the gym.
A lot of guys think that when you work with pros, that the workouts are. Please don't come over there. We gotta get the kids back to school, coach.
Man, wear your mask, bro.
True indeed. A lot of times, guys, trainers in general, maybe some young guys, they feel like when you work with pros that the workouts are something from out of this world, and you got to do a bunch of different things that you see other guys do on social media, whatever the case. What are your thoughts on your workout approach with your more talented players, and what have you been able to do to kind of hone in on the things you do compared to paying attention to what others have going on when it comes to training their players?
I mean, I think it's easier to train players the higher up that they are, because for the most part, they've already been taught like the basic fundamentals and like the basic things that you don't need to teach, you know? So for the most part, when like you're working with a pro, unless they're in like some sort of a group workout to where you're going to work on something for the day, or you're just trying to get a sweat in, you're more or less trying to help them individually as far as like what they need to either add or what they're not doing very well. And like tapping into like synergy, you got every stat in the book as far as how, you know, how this player shoots from this spot as opposed to this shot. And if they're not shooting very well from this spot, then let's go shoot from that spot and let's get really, really good there. Mm-hmm. If a player says, okay, this offseason I want to add a move. Okay, then we'll try to find a move that is going to work out based off that player's style, because not every single move that you teach is going to work out for that guy or girl. You know what I mean? So just trying to find out exactly, you got to dive in a little bit deeper. As far as like studying a little bit as far as what they're good at, what they're bad at, but you don't got to go in and like teach. You really don't got to go teach. You just more or less try to enhance. You know, you enhance strength and you enhance quickness and you add something. And then you just continue to just challenge them, but give them structure. And that's one thing that I know that the pros that I work with, though, they appreciate the structure, they appreciate the detail, but they also appreciate my energy. Is just being able to be in the gym every day, though, and have good energy and not let them down when they might not want to work out. They might come in and be like, man, I don't want to do it. But my energy alone, though, will get them to the point though where we're going to do it. You know, and just having that good energy, though, like, and not asking them for stuff. They're already being pulled on from every limb. Not asking them for anything, showing up there directly for them, helping them getting out of there.
What are some of the biggest differences that you've seen working with men's athletes and women's athletes?
You know what? Back in the day, I think girls and guys were trained differently. As far as like the moves that they did, because, you know, girls, you know, you taught the up and under and, you know, you train boys differently. I think now, especially with pros, you train them the exact same way. You know, like the elite, you know, girls players, I mean, like Plum, I train her the exact same way that I were to train Nate. We do a lot of the same exact stuff because it's a lot of the same exact actions, you know, for a point guard, shooting guard. We're doing a lot of this. They're going to get the same type of shots. You know what I mean? So we're doing a lot of the same exact stuff. Even for younger players, I think for like females, you want to focus on like movements, stability, you know, making them stronger, because like, you know, science proves that they do kind of tear ACLs a little bit more than guys. And so you want to make sure that maybe like their core is a little stronger, and that maybe, you know, strength wise, they're just stronger in certain areas. But for the most part, you train them the exact same way.
What about speaking about younger women's players, do you feel that you have to key in, and I think it's comparable to with boys too, but you have to key in and really focus on playing with aggression? And then, you know, another question would be, how do you try to develop players to play with aggression who kind of stray away from it or almost don't even know what it's supposed to feel like or look like?
I think that comes a lot too from like the family background of how they're raised and brought up. You know, I think that if a girl though is like raised, if she's raised prissy and you know, like a typical, or not a typical, but how females are perceived as far as like, maybe, soft and not aggressive, and then you can have that. But I think that if a female is brought up in a household with maybe dad is like playing, she has two older bros, and it kind of has that aggression growing up, I think that they can adapt to anything just like any human can. You know what I mean? I'm working currently with a group of 9 6th through 8th grade girls. They're all very, very sweet. They're all talented. They're all skilled. One thing that I'm doing, and I only work with them twice a week, but one thing that I'm trying to let them know is that you guys can be nasty, play nasty, but then right when you get done, we can be friends. And so I'm trying to bring that out of them, though, in like an environment that's safe, to where if it gets too over the top, I'm going to call foul. But I'm letting them play through stuff to where I'm not calling anything. I want there to be loose balls. I want girls to get slammed into the wall. Like, I want them to learn how to just feel the aggression, understand they're not going to get hurt. But then being able to take it back a little bit, though, and let them understand that when we get done, we're done. Like, we're stepping outside the line, like, like, let's dap up. Like, it's all good. You got to be nasty inside. And that's like some of the females that I've worked with. For lack of words, though, they are nasty. They're bitches, man.
Dogs.
They are nasty. And I mean, it's just like there's no man that I've worked with that can compare to like Kelsey Plum and Courtney Vandersloot. When they get to that point, they are nasty. Like, they are nasty to the point to where I'm like, damn, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it can be ingrained. It's obviously been taught to them at some point. And I always talk about everybody's got a fire inside of them. You got to feed that fire every single day, female or man. You got to feed that fire.
Yeah. To piggyback, the word that I've come across the most when working with women's players is just trying to help them. And not all, like you said, there's women who just come with the natural ability to compete and not afraid to be aggressive and strong and be a dog. But there are some who it's almost like a lack of enthusiasm. And I feel like the lack of enthusiasm comes from, it's almost like uncomfortable to show this side of, because this is not what girls do. And that's what you're talking about. Like, when you get on the court, you have to have, it doesn't matter men's or women's, right? You have to have enthusiasm.
Step in between those lines, yep.
And when you're in between those lines, like, you have to play this way. This is how it has to be done, or we're going to fall short. The word I was looking for is like almost like an embarrassment. Like really? Like, her? Like, she's doing that?
Well, and not to cut you off, though, but I think, though, that is brought out, though, in the environment that they're in. If, like, a coach wants that environment and you see them 5 days a week, they might fight it for the first 5, 6, 7, 2 weeks, but then once they're just like, man, this ain't going to change because this is what my coach wants, they'll either transfer or they'll adapt. And college-wise, you can recruit the type of players that you want because you know that they're going to fit the mold of the environment that you create.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So it's just like one of those things to where, like, the ones that are not enthused and the ones that aren't used to, like, playing like that have obviously come from a structure that has not brought that out in them.
Boys and girls. Boys and girls.
Both. You know what I mean? So it's just like in our state, you know what I mean? If, like, you go into, like, the hood in Seattle, Rotary, that's, like, the best AAU team in the country. If you go drop your kid off there for 3-4 hours, 5 days a week, he's either going to sink or swim. There's no in between. He's either going to get his ass eaten or he's going to evolve into a shark and become one of the pack. You know what I mean? So, but if you don't ever bring him there, the first time he sees it, it's going to be a shock for him. So it's just like the same type of thing that what we're saying is that, like, if kids don't come from that environment or that structure, they are going to look at it as kind of like, I'm not supposed to act like that. Like, my coach taught me this. But you do got to have – that's the way that I coach. I mean, I want kids, though, to be aggressive. I want kids to play with a chip on their shoulder. I want kids to be nasty. I can always tone you down. But when it gets into it, it's hard to always make them turn that switch on if it's always been off.
Yeah, you want kids who are on go. And when they're on go, they can control themselves and their thoughts and their opinions and the way that they're playing. And then, like you said, like, we want to try to find ways to dumb it down so that we're not too high and we're not too low, but you're at a really even keel where you can compete in any environment That's
Yep,
what
and
I
that's one
come
thing that
with.
my coaches always taught me back in the day is that they used to always say, you're not good enough to turn the switch on and off.
Hmm.
Now, LeBron James, guys like that, they can push buttons and they can go on when they want, off when they want. But for the most part, a high majority of people that play the game cannot turn the switch on and off. And so if it's always on, you never got to worry about turning it on because it's on.
Right.
But that's also like a mindset that you got to train in kids, and it's got to be a constant message every single day. So, and sometimes though, like when we train kids, we might train a kid one time a week. It's hard to really have the impact that you want to have when you see him every Tuesday at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, you're just getting a workout and getting some good reps.
Yeah, that's it.
But it's hard to continue to build on that.
Right.
Too
Unless they're
much.
getting it.
Unless they're getting it
I mean,
elsewhere. Unless they're getting
right.
it elsewhere. The right way, though.
Right, exactly.
The right way.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the Sonics and what they meant for the city and the state, and what's the feeling now about the organization and in the hope to have them back.
Well, anytime you can grow up as a kid and you have a professional sports team that you can go drive and go watch, I think that's cool, though. So all the Seattle teams that we have, like the Sonics, Mariners, Seahawks, I'm huge fans of all three of them because my parents grew up watching all three of them, and they were so close. You could go to games, and so you grow up, though, as a fan, right? I would say the Sonics, what I remember, first about the Sonics back in the day, this is probably, I want to say early 90s, maybe even late 80s with the Sean Kemp, Gary Payton era. And I remember when the Sonics started to become contenders in the playoffs and Gary Payton throwing lobs to Sean Kemp and just hearing Calabro in the background. And just it was really, really exciting, though, to watch these games. You didn't want to miss the game because Sean Kemp was going to do something. Gary Payton was going to throw a lob. And so it got to a point where it was you needed to be in front of your TV, though, when they played. That evolved with Doug Christie, who played at Beach, went to, I believe, Pepperdine, and then played in the NBA, though, for 10-plus years. Doug Christie created the Seattle Pro-Am League, which the Seattle Pro-Am was created around that same exact time, and guys from the Sonics would go play in it. And so there has always been this feeling of, as a kid, you could touch these guys. You could see them up close. The Sonics ran basketball camps in the late 80s that I went to as a kid. So I was hearing from Avery Johnson, George Karl. I was hearing from these guys and being able to shake their hand and see them. And people don't understand that when kids can do that, they're not just a fixture on the TV screen, but they're people that they can actually talk to and see and actually look at. It becomes more real, and you become more inspired, though, from that. So that was the impact that Seattle Sonics basketball had on me, and obviously I've been a huge fan since. With the void, there has been a void, and it was a sad day when they left. But Jamal Crawford has done a great job, and Nate Robinson and Aaron Brooks and Spencer Hawes and all these pros, man, Isaiah, they've done a great job of still being on the ground for these kids. You know what I mean? As far as being at the Pro-Am, Nate's been very involved with me doing camps. Jamal and I ran a camp, though, 2 years in a row where we invited the top 40 kids from Washington State, and we had an elite camp. And so they've been very, very good as far as being accessible. And so going back to the Sonics, though, I mean, obviously, we have hopes that it's going to one day – we're in one of the best markets, though, to have a team. I mean, the Seahawks, very successful. The Mariners, they're a little bit down, but we're in a great market to have a sports team. It's just a matter of time. We have a hockey team starting up this year, and there's no doubt that we're going to have a team. It's just which team is going to relocate. Are we going to franchise? We're going to have a team here at some point. But in the void, these Seattle pros have done a great job by being able to have the Seattle Pro-Am where he's had Kobe Bryant and Kevin Durant and all these pros of Blake Griffin, Kyrie come and play for these kids, man. So
My father is Sam Perkins' legal guardian, so Sam is like my brother. Big Smooth, and
Big Smooth, man.
His youngest daughter, I'm not exactly sure where she goes to school at in Seattle. She's 14 years old, and she's about 5'10", 5'11"-ish.
Sam's daughter?
Yeah, her name is Maria Perkins.
Okay, yeah. She might go to either Lakeside or Seattle Prep.
Okay.
I think
and
the
I
last time, cause I talked to Sam last year, and we were talking about her, and I think he either said Lakeside or Seattle Prep, that one of those two.
I think it might have switched now that she's back and forth to where he lives. He lives in Dallas also, so she might be doing school out there. I don't know how it looks, but I was going to say that you got to get with her, because I believe from the outside looking in and from what I've seen that she's got great potential and
She
upside,
can go.
and she loves the
Yep.
game.
Right. Well, when you come from NBA blood, I mean, like we talk about feel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's grown up in the gym since she was born. You know what I mean? Like, she understands how to walk like a hooper, talk like a hooper. She understands the ins and outs, the intangibles that sometimes those are hard to teach.
Mm-hmm. But it always comes down to, even if you have those, you still have to find a way to want to do those things. You want to
Absolutely.
have the enthusiasm. You want to play with aggression. And some doesn't matter. Again, boys and girls, they just can't put it together because it's just not in their DNA. Even though the NBA or WNBA is in their DNA.
Right. True.
If you had advice for your younger self, when you first got into and decided, I want to be a trainer, or I want to teach kids the game of basketball, I want to be in the gym, what would you say to yourself?
I mean, I would say younger self, like, and I'm just now starting to get like more and more comfortable though with this, but being able to ask for help,
Mm-hmm.
being able to maybe, don't feel uncomfortable about reaching out to the mentors to just be able to pick their brain. Being able to like seek more information, more knowledge. Then I would not change anything about my grind that I have. You know what I mean? Like the way that I grinded. I mean, there was nobody that grinded harder than I did during those. Even now, I mean, obviously everybody's got their own grind, but during those first 4 or 5 years, I would not change anything about that. But I would change, like, I would probably seek more information business-wise. Mm-hmm. Because at that time, 10 years ago, there weren't a lot of people that trained. Social media was just kind of starting up. And so it's hard to change anything as far as that goes, but just seek more knowledge. Mm-hmm. Have more mentors that you feel comfortable being able to just pick their brain so you can find out more, so you can learn quicker. Mm-hmm. That would be the main thing.
What would you suggest for me? So, we talk about working all those camps and learning how to coach. I can't tell you how many college camps I've worked, kids camps I've worked, and you do now have that repetition of knowing how to coach. When I first started coaching, I would see things because I understand the game. My father, I'm a coach's son, so I would see things happen on the court, but I wouldn't stop it because I didn't know how to own the room, to be confident in what I wanted to say and what I wanted to deliver. So we have that experience, and then I coached 3 years at a Division III, and you recruit and you're on the court and you go to NCAA tournaments, and then you go to Yale as the ops. So now you see and understand the business aspect of it with the travel and whatever else, all the other things that go into it. And then you win 2 Ivy League championships, and then you decide to jump out at 34 and start your own player development, mentorship, and college recruitment advising business. And you want to make it a business, right? So with all those things, in your experience from being in the game much longer than I have, obviously we've trained kids, but it's just totally different. It's a different world. What are some things that maybe even 1 or 2 things that come to mind, like, you should probably try to do this, or you should look into this?
I would say, like, the first thing when I started doing this, and I wanted more people to like understand what I was doing, get more eyes on it. So that means, like, obviously, like, we're in a stage right now where we can post content, and when you post content, people can see it. Then people now have it's up to them now to say, I either want to do it or not. So one thing that I've always tried to do is like make my post completely genuine off of what I believe. You know what I mean? And like my posts are aimed to inspire. So it's not, but just getting eyes on what you do. You know what I mean? Is that you want to try to get, like clips of you training kids. You want people to see it. So then they can actually get to the point though where they can choose though if they want to train with you or not, or if they want to partner with you or not. And so that would be one thing. Like the next thing, one, just continue to stay in great shape.
That's the
Like that's a
goal.
big thing though too, man. Is that like not only will you look the part, but you are going to. It's going to be able to validate when you are telling these kids to do X, Y, Z. You're doing X, Y, Z as well. You know what I mean? And so it comes from the heart a little bit more. Try to do your best job to get out there and sweat with your kids, and
Mm-hmm.
actually let them know that you're in the trenches though too with them. I mean, players when they see you sweat and they see you active, it's just different. And also when you sweat and when you're active, the words that come out of your mouth are more passionate.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they just hold a little
Yeah.
bit more weight because you're in there doing it.
They got to feel you.
So yeah, just I mean, you know, that's like the main thing is just continue to just get eyes on what you do, because obviously like you do have a good background. I mean, there's not a lot of people that have coached at Yale. There's not a lot of people that have like the things that you've had, and so not feeling bad about advertising yourself and marketing those things,
Mm-hmm.
because you are separating yourself just in this in the work that you've done in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
those experiences were a big reason why I felt the conviction to go a different route. And I still, you know, the goal still in a weird way, not a weird way, but whatever the term I'm trying to use is I still want to coach college basketball at the highest level. You know, you really have confetti dreams. Like you really want to coach on that stage and be in that environment, which is like no other.
Right.
I just felt like there could be a different way to get there. And in 2020, 21, there's really no right way to do something. If you're just the best you can be every day and you continue to build your experiences and separate yourself and do things the right way, because there's a lot of guys who are really good at what they do. They just can't find a way to not post something or present themselves in a certain light. And it's like, dude, you can't do that, because now you're too comparable to the kids. You're too close to them. Like
absolutely, you gotta draw the line.
There's a thin line between being like big bro and you know, I can't portray that. I shouldn't, even if I want to. I'm not going to, and a lot of guys can't make that. They can't tell.
Well, a lot of that though. Oh, that's Gabe trying to talk smack, man. Come on, Gabe.
I'm just looking.
But you know, that also comes down though too to just, I mean, being absolutely transparent. That's one thing that the players that I work with also they'll respect. They either like it or they don't. But I'm gonna tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in this to like. There's been big time players that I've worked with that we've gotten into conflict on the court, and I was like, look, man, I'm not here to be your friend.
No, hell no.
But now years after that, we become friends. You know what I mean?
And they respect it.
Like, once we can get past that, you know what I mean? Like then we're good. But it's just like I'm not here to tell you that you're the best, and I'm not here to make things easy. Like you've come to me because you want to improve. The only way that we're going to do that is by getting out of what you are right now. And if you can't get there by yourself, then it's my job to pull it out of you. And if you don't like it, then I'm not the one. Then there's 500 other guys you can go pay. They're going to tell you that you're the best. I'm not the one. You know what I mean? So my reputation is way more important than our big bro, little bro. You know what I mean? So like I don't need any of that, man.
From my experience, and obviously I don't think that I know it all. I actually think that I know much less than I know. But for what I've experienced and what I know, even if it's a small amount, I have a blueprint. Like we have a blueprint, right? Like I know what it looks like.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest with you, and there's going to be non-negotiables, and I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to tell you the truth all the time. That's not what it looks like.
Yep.
But there's a lot of guys who are unable to do that for whatever the reason, lack of experience or lack of confidence or just whatever the case. So I'm trying to help kids understand the best that, listen, I know the blueprint. I know what coaches want to see.
Right. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And you could be, and not to go off at a tangent, but you could be the most skilled player in the world. But if you conceptually don't know how to play basketball, you're not going to. CC, can you please be quiet? You're not going to be able to get to your skill because from a conceptual standpoint, if the coach can't trust you, then you're going to be on the bench before you can get to your skill.
Well, just like we had talked about too, with like, being, just telling the truth. Like I was always taught at a young age though that you had to be. People can critique you, and it's okay to not take that the opposite way. Like be okay though with being critiqued. And like somebody had to teach that to me, that it was okay for somebody to say, "Hey, you're not doing this correctly," or "Hey, you missed a block out." But I had to be taught that was okay though for a coach to be able to tell that to me, and it wasn't because he didn't like me, but because he was trying to help me. And so I think that if like kids, if you can tell them that people telling you the truth is the right way, they're going to be okay with it. But if they come from a family that is always telling them what they want to hear, they're always kind of assisting them with their needs and not telling them the way it is, then it's going to be different when a kid comes and you tell them 3 or 4 things that they did wrong that day. But they can get accustomed though to hearing the truth though, and I think the truth though, we always talk about this, is that the truth will set you free. Like hearing the truth, telling the truth, being in the truth, it'll set you free. So take it or not.
No doubt. All right, hey, we got about 8 minutes left. Tell me how your weighted ball came about, and then also the heavy ball, and then just let people know. Oh yeah, yeah. That's big time.
Baby. Hey man, I'm gonna go in the background and do some drills real fast.
That's big time. That is big time.
This has been like some stories, man. Back in the day, they didn't have these. Okay, we used to dribble the 8-pound med balls. The 8-pound med balls, right? They were so hard to bounce. They would cut up your hands. But after you got done with that ball, you had a real ball in your hands. Like the confidence that I would get as a kid doing that, instant gratification as far as like the feel. So we are in an instant gratification era right now where kids post, they want their likes, they want their comments, they want their shares right now. This will give you instant gratification with your ball handling. And so I've spent like probably 20 years, man, experimenting though with ball handling drills with med balls, yellow balls, Spalding balls, skills balls. And so now I've had my chance to be able to create the ball that I want to be able to pass down to the next gen of kids. And I think that we have a pretty damn good ball as far as like feel, as far as bounce, as far as control. Man, I'm so happy and like pumped up though to have this, that this is mine, you know what I mean? And that I can pass it along, because this has helped me and so many players though for a long, long time. And every player that I've worked with for the most part believes in it just like me. And so, man, I'm honored to be able to have it and be able to partner though with Sterling to be able to offer a tool that will help kids.
How many minutes a day do you suggest once people purchase the ball that they utilize it?
And that just kind of comes down to personal preference. I mean, like I remember, and I'll get back to that as far as like what I think, but like growing up, I would always get down to the YMCA like around like 4 o'clock. We couldn't get on the court till 5. There was like yoga and stuff on the court. So it's just like most of the kids would just sit on the side of the wall and wait. I would go in the racquetball court and I would take that med ball and I would work on my ball handling for an hour. I would pass this ball off the wall with my right hand, with my left hand, chest passes, overhead passes, ball fakes, post entries. I would work on ball handling, then I would switch balls. I would do attack moves, right attack. And I would spend an hour. Then I would go on the court. I had a light sweat. I've been working on my handle. And then it was time, it was time to hoop. And so I spent an hour, probably 3-4 times a week mixing back and forth between this ball and my light ball. I would suggest, if you're spending 0 time, 5 minutes is more than you're doing. If you're spending 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you know what I mean? So you want to just do a little bit more than what you're used to doing. But if you've never used this ball, I would say like 10 minutes a day. Nothing like, and I always talk about 15 minutes a day keeps the turnovers away.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's just hope that they can decision make while they're on the court, or else they're still going to turn it over.
100%. And that's the thing. There's another phase. And I always talk about with ball handling. Okay, one, you help build a relationship with yourself and the ball. Okay, which is very important. You give them that death stare. So you help build a relationship though with the ball. That's like the main thing, okay? 2, you can enhance your strength and quickness. So it's like the equivalent of going to lift weights. You're never going to lift weights though in a game, but with the strength that you get, you're going to be able to use that strength though to defend and get to the basket. So with the quickness and the strength that we can enhance, we're enhancing things. Now we've got to learn how to make the right reads. The IQ's got to pick up. But this is just used to enhance.
Where can they get it?
We're going to go live on Friday morning at 7 a.m. So if you go to my Instagram page, you're on my Facebook, we are going live Friday morning at 7 a.m. That's when it'll be live. So we will have a link. Right now there's not a link yet. Get in line Friday morning. It'll be ready to go.
All right, perfect. All right, it's a wrap, Coach. Let's you and I stay in contact and continue to build. I'm looking forward to getting out to Washington and helping you out when you got your deals coming up. What in the short term, what do you have coming up that kids can look forward to, especially in your city?
I mean, right now with like gyms being locked down, I mean, I am doing right now for the most part exclusively just Zooms.
Okay.
Like that's really all we can do for the next month. There's a couple private gyms that I have, but obviously those are undisclosed, and I'm not going to share that with anybody. I mean, that's something that I'm going to do with like private clients that I have, but nothing advertised just because we're going to abide by the state guideline, and we're going into lockdown, and we're just going to wait it out.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Please remain safe. And I will be reaching out to continue to pick your brain and continue to build with you. I appreciate you, Coach.
Yeah, sounds good. Stay in touch, man. And at some point, we're going to have to collab, man. Like just doing something.
100%.
Yes, sir. All right, man. Stay in touch, though. Thank you.
All right. Have a great one. Thank you.
All right, y'all. Peace.